introduction for us. That'd be great.
Fantastic.
Untangled.
All righty. Hey, everybody. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of the Church Communications Podcast. I'm your host, Daryl Girardier, and with me, as always, is the one, the only, Katie Allred. Today's podcast is brought to you by the Church Marketing Summit. That's churchmarketingsummit.com. You know, typically we get a lot of ad copy to read when we get this kind of stuff, but they said, you know what, just speak from your heart. And so, well, that's what we're going to do. This is an online conference that's hosted by our good friend Alejandro Reyes, and Alejandro was on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Alejandro's put together, I think, I want to say 35 people who all work in the sphere that you and I work in, church communications. People like the wonderful Katie, Jared Wilson, Neil Smith, Haley Vitris, Brady Shear, Carrie Newhoff, Stephen Brewster. And so it's a whole wide range of people. And basically they're doing a whole online conference. The fun part is it is absolutely free. So if you want to check it out, you go to churchmarketingsummit.com, you get a free ticket and you can watch. And so it'll be really, really cool. I know you'll enjoy it. I know Katie's pumped to be a part of it, and we're glad that she is. So I'll put the link in the show notes. So that's churchmarketingsummit.com. And we thank them again for sponsoring today's episode. All right, so folks, we're talking about 2018. Things we're pumped about, things we're excited for in 2018. First, Katie, though, I need to ask you, did you have a good Christmas?
I had a great Christmas. Did you have a good Christmas? Did you do anything exciting?
I went to Christmas Town, which is like
that sounds fun.
So in Virginia Beach, just north there's Williamsburg, and in Williamsburg there's a theme park called Busch Gardens, and they convert Busch Gardens, which is like a whole Europe. Like they have Germany, they have France, also they convert it into basically a giant Christmas town.
Yeah.
So Christmas lights are everywhere, and it's beautiful, it's fantastic. We went there and we froze, but we had a really good time. So I did
awesome.
13-hour drive back yesterday. So I'm back here ready to do a very good podcast.
With two kids. Sounds like
with two kids. Oh yes.
Sounds like such a great time you had there.
It's a bonding moment with me and the 9-month-old. It's a total bonding moment.
I just saw on your wife's Insta that your favorite restaurant is closing. How do you feel?
Don't give me.
Oh my gosh, Daryl. I wanted to cry for you.
I'm really heartbroken.
Yeah.
And they said, so here's the deal. So for those of you who don't know, my favorite restaurant in the world is a restaurant called Mac and Kate's. It's literally like 100 yards from my house. They have the best lobster mac and cheese in the world, and they're shutting down. But that's because Nashville's growing so fast, and so many new restaurants are shutting up
all the time.
That's what they told me, and so I believe them, and so I hate it, but that's just the way it goes. So don't. Yeah, today's a sad day in our house because it's the last day the restaurant's open. So that's by the way, that's the other reason we raced back home was to eat there for one last time. So that's what we did.
Oh man, yeah, I saw that and I was like, man, I'm depressed. I mean, I only ate there once, but I was like, oh man, this is a great restaurant. I never ate there again. Sorry, guys.
No, it's gone. And they said it was millennials, so it's people like you, Katie.
Really? It was not my fault? Whatever. I mean, it was kind of expensive.
It is. Well, but that's... I mean, don't get me wrong.
I would eat there again. No. It's just like, I couldn't eat there all the time or something. Anyway.
No, that's price-conscious millennials, which is
price-conscious millennials. We have no money because we have all that student loan debt, remember?
That is true.
I don't have any student loan debt, actually, so I'm just saying, I'm like a rare bird.
You are a rare bird. I know plenty of them that are not.
I am a unicorn in the world of people who are educated that are my age. So God bless you all.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Exactly.
All right. So let's head into the topics.
Yes. So what we want to talk about is we're talking about 2018. As you guys know, 2018 starts tomorrow, which by the way, folks, don't forget, as of tomorrow, you have 90 days until Easter.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that out there. 90 days till Easter. Easter's April 1. So we want to talk about some of the things that we are excited about for 2018. And so I'm not so much excited about, but things we're focused on. For those of you who don't know, we're required to create goals every year for ourselves and for the team.
Yep.
And so we said, what are the things we're focused on? And we even pulled into 2 different meetings with the senior pastor where he said, what are you focusing on? What are we doing?
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a bit of a recap on some of the big things we've hit. And so we want to talk to you about some of the things that we're focusing on as a church. And we'll be curious about what you're focusing on in 2018. So I broke it down to there are 3 or 4 different things, but the first one may be a little odd for some of y'all, but this is the one of the things that Katie keeps pounding. I think Katie's right. Is one of the things we're focusing on photography. And Katie, you want to explain why that's one of your big focuses in 2018?
Gosh, because I feel like we have terrible photography and I want better. The thing is, like, it's not like we don't have, it's not, okay, it's not like we have terrible photography. The problem is that we don't have photography at all. Like, the problem is that we have used stock photos forever for almost everything. And that just doesn't translate well to social media. And I mean, and gosh, us millennials are ruining everything. But the truth is, like, okay, like, I don't trust a brand that isn't authentic and isn't curating or creating, well, not curating even, like, creating their own content like real photography. And so what I really would love to do, what I want to do is I want to start telling more stories using photography. I know that I think we put a big emphasis on video storytelling sometimes, or we put it on maybe just like sharing it in a printed way. But like, I'm like, I don't think that's, obviously, I don't think that's the way of the future. I think Humans of New York has already like shown that and proven that. And I mean, I don't, so we're not like an early adopter in this method at all. We're like kind of on like we're on the like, I'm not going to say we're a late adopter either, but we're definitely on like this tail end. So I'm like, all right, let's get in on this level, because I feel like, you know, for social media, you have to be authentic. Like you have to really show who you really are and your true self, and the church too. Like we have to show like who really is the church, and it's not necessarily just our pastor. You know, our church is so many people, and so I'm kind of interested to see. I want to tell more stories with photography. I just don't know exactly how we're going to do that yet.
Yeah. We don't. Yeah, here we say
I'm not a photographer. That's the terrible part, you know.
Yeah, like, and it's probably going to be me or one of the video team is going to have to take up that mantle, I think, to a certain degree, and jump into the photography world to do that. But I think Katie's right. I think one of the things we knew was going to happen down the road, and it was going to be was that everybody's going to start using the same services for all the stock photography, whether it's Unsplash or whatever it is. And on top of that, there are a lot of great services, which we like, Sunday Social, all these other ones that are going to create these Instagram graphics for you. And all of a sudden, is we knew at some point that everybody was going to start using those services.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, our feeds were going to start all looking the same. And we had a really great conversation with one of our campus pastors who said, I really don't feel like what we're doing is working for us. And they explained why. And by the way, it was totally rational.
Yeah. I really agreed with him. I felt like it was something I had wanted to do, but I feel like we weren't capable of. Just because we have a certain skill sets, and I feel like photography isn't super any of ours. So it's kind of like, okay, what do we do? Do I, get an intern and hire them specifically for that, which I have in the past. But I was like, I feel like I need to, really go hard after telling these stories. And they don't have to be like huge stories. Like I'm not thinking like these really long things. I'm thinking I want to take a picture of someone, even if it's I don't want to necessarily do it at church. Like I want to do it like at their workplace or at their home. Yeah. And tell like, what is God doing in your life? And it could literally just be one word, like patience or forgiveness or whatever. But I want to tell stories that are more compelling than what we have in the past. And really not just compelling, but inspiring and transformation. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I feel like we're totally not sharing in that kind of way, in a bite-sized kind of way. And I feel like we really could. So.
I completely agree. Agree. Yep. So photography is one of the things we're looking at shifting away from stock photography and getting real photos. And honestly, I think one of the things that comes with that is we're gonna have to accept a little bit of slippage in terms of quality at first as we try to get our footing. So the photography may not look the absolute perfect, but I'd rather have it be a little less perfect and a little more and a lot more authentic than perfect and inauthentic for that matter. Number 2, Instagram stories. So this was like a 2017 thing for us, Katie, and do you see it playing out in 2018 as well?
Oh yeah. We're going to have to do a lot more of that. And then what I want to do more of too, and I feel like Instagram stories is great for in the moment, but it's also, I feel like, a great place to put announcements. Even though that's like sounds terrible, but I love how New York Times, obviously they don't have an announcement. New York Times doesn't. They're telling really awesome stories.
Yeah.
But I love how they put together these little bite-sized story things, and it's just like, and you don't even have to have multiple pictures. They just like use the same picture over and over and just add captions along the way.
Yeah.
And I want to do more of that. And so, but again, I think photography plays a huge part in that. So I'm like, okay, how do we, I feel like for us, moving forward, photography is a huge part of, what we're going to be doing. Instagram stories though, I don't know. What do you think about it?
I mean, I think one of the things I've noticed is I look at my own pattern. And I look at my patterns and I kind of go, I hardly scroll down the feed anymore. I pretty much hit the stories and just scroll through the stories.
Yeah, me too. That's like where I spend the majority of my time.
And so I sit there and and by the way, I've trained Instagram stories to know which stories I care about. So they load the ones I care about on the front end, and they've got me, the algorithm is pretty good about knowing what I like.
Yeah.
So I look at it and I kind of go, okay, I think more and more people are they're diving into these platforms, they're diving in, diving out. You've got 30 seconds free time, open up Instagram, roll through the story. So I think it's where it's at. I think for us, to a certain degree, depends on your age group, your demographic of the people you serve.
Yep.
But for us, our demographic we're serving is slightly older at this campus.
Yeah.
So I know it's a long play. It's not something immediate, but somewhere down the road, it's what people will be at. So I think Instagram stories for us is a big 2018 focus as well.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a long play thing. I think what we're about to talk about, Facebook groups, is definitely more of a and I think a Facebook group too is a long play, but I also think it's definitely going to be super relevant for the older people.
Yep.
More so than I ever thought.
Let's talk about, honestly, I think out of all things we're going to talk about, this is probably the biggest one, and that is us jumping full on into Facebook. And we'll talk about Facebook pages here in a second.
Yep.
But let Katie talk us through a little bit of where you see us going and spending our time on Facebook groups and why.
Well, that's a great question. So I think that what we've decided and what we're doing is, and what we're talking about even next is Facebook pages are your marquee. Like, Facebook pages are like, they should be these inspirational, cool little snippet stories, but your page shouldn't be a post after a post after a post inviting people to an event.
Exactly.
And it shouldn't be, of course you should put events on your page, like, or whatever, so people can RSVP and whatever. But I don't think that you should just sit there and put, we're having homecoming today, we're having homecoming today, we're having that doesn't work. That's like a drop in the ocean, and Facebook hates it, so they're gonna like push it down as much as possible. So but what does work is Facebook groups, and especially when your group is small. Like, our group is huge now, which is crazy, but when your group is small, everyone gets a notification, everyone mostly sees it. It shows up more in the newsfeed than ever. Because Facebook has told us that they are going hard after groups. And so if there is any social media platform I would be investing in for your church right now, it would be a Facebook group. And so figuring that out is going to be hard, because a Facebook group is not a one-way conversation anymore. Just telling people things, they can tell you stuff back, which of course that's what you wanted in the first place, right? That's why you're trying so hard to get people to engage on your page, was you wanted them to talk back. But now, of course, you're like, oh, now I'm a little scared because I feel like they can really give me feedback.
Exactly.
Whereas before, maybe they weren't. And so that's the difference, I think, in a group. Obviously, it's a community, but your church is a community. Like, that is the church. Like, that's it. So at first, when we talked about Facebook groups, it was so funny. We talked about Facebook groups in our Facebook group. When we first started, and people were like, no, let's just not. And Daryl and I, we talked about it too, and we were like, it just seems messy, but you know what? Church is messy. So, I'm not going to let things like that hold me back. It's almost like when people were talking about church and Snapchat, like, don't be afraid to do something just because you feel like there could be bad, I don't know. What's the word?
Well, I think You don't do it just because you're afraid something can blow up. I mean,
something's always going to blow up no matter what. Even if you were like super safe, like it's going to blow up. Like I literally probably, we talked about this before in this Facebook group, in church communications, like of course you would think everyone would get along great in the church, right? But the truth is everybody has a different opinion, and sometimes people are just like, they got feelings, and me and Daryl talk about that all the time. People have so many feelings, and Daryl and I love to just manage people's feelings, and it's just going to happen, and that's okay. It's fine. You'll move forward. It won't ruin your life or theirs. You're going to be fine.
Yeah, I think one of the interesting things is that you and I, this conversation was when we talked to Facebook about this, and Facebook said they noticed a large number of people get their community from places of faith. Yep. So they're trying to figure out how do places of faith do community and do it online. Right. And so I think Facebook themselves recognizes that we as the church do community well. So that is why I think I'm a big believer in the fact that I think we've seen groups for us work on small scale in terms of we gave a group to the choir. Okay, we did a Facebook group for our choir. Yeah. And the moment,
which isn't super small, actually. That's like the size of a small church for most people.
Yeah, it's like 150 people in that group.
Well, I think there may be 200 now in that Facebook group. There's 150 active actually in choir.
Yeah. So, but so like immediately once choir practice is over, what do? They're diving in. They're throwing photos up. They're asking questions about the music, and all of a sudden, I'm looking at it and I'm kind of going, "Oh wow, this is what community will look like online."
This is exactly what they needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they, when I first talked to them, and we had a brand new choir director, and he was like, how do I communicate with my people better? And, in the past, we've always done email newsletters, and I think they had, obviously we have planning center and all that. And I think he had talked about making a website and this kind of stuff. And I was like, can we just try a Facebook group and see what happens? Like, let's just try it. And if it's awful, we'll shut it down. Like if it's terrible, we'll get rid of it. And I feel like it has worked so incredibly well for them. And I also love how people come together to pray for each other on there and do, more than just like talk about music, but like really like just share life on their Facebook group. And I think, as we move forward, we're going to find more and more people doing this, doing community online, just like we're doing right now. There's 12 people watching us, and I feel like they're our community. Like I've never met Karina in my life, but I love her and she's our moderator. So, I mean, like, like there's, like these are real people and we care about them. So I think too, when we start more and more so, our online life and our real life are going to be like this, Yeah. I think people for so long have been trying so hard to keep them separate or something. And I'm like, no, they're really real. People feel like you have kept up with them via Facebook. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, you see old friends and they're like, I don't have anything to ask you because I've seen your whole life on Facebook, so I'm good.
And I hardly ever play the age card with certain people, but I do find that you and I, when we have this conversation with ministers, we sit there and it's typically the ministers that are slightly older. I would say boomers who struggle with this the most. I say Gen Xers and boomers seem to struggle with this, but I'm gonna call them our millennials, and I don't think we don't have any Gen Z ministers yet. We will here pretty soon. This is not an issue for them. This is kind of like drinking water.
My whole life has been like that. I was raised on the internet. So, I mean, I was lucky enough to not really have social media until I graduated high school. So that was fortunate because I'm like, I had some. So, like, you could go back in my Facebook and kind of find some. But, like, for the most part, it didn't really happen until, like, right at the beginning of my senior year, it kind of started. And I'm so grateful that, like, we didn't really understand it and no one was super into it in the middle of the country. We didn't have iPhones. So, like, it really wasn't that great. So,
Charles, we got a question. Charles asked, would you create a group for a ministry like students or children? Here's what I would do. Okay, this is me, and I'm being married to a student minister, so I would.
That's true. Daryl has a great,
Yes, my wife is a student minister. I would actually maybe look at doing two groups, one for parents and one for volunteers, because those are two separate channels. You communicate two different things to them. So I know our student ministry, they like to do Facebook Live just for parents. So once a week they do a Facebook Live where they communicate the big things to parents via Facebook. Yeah. And probably I would do the same thing with groups. The cool thing about, with your volunteers, the cool thing about the volunteer stuff is you can do the file uploads and they can deliver curriculum. You can do all that on Facebook. And of course you do, by the way, you will have some of those who say, I'm not on Facebook. And, that's increasingly rare. So that's going to happen to a certain degree. But that's the way I would approach it. I would think of two different groups. I would think of volunteers and parents, only because those are typically two separate communication needs. One of them, go ahead.
Would you create one for students?
Okay, our students are.
That's a question.
Our students aren't on Facebook.
That's true. That's so true. They're not on Facebook. So, but I think the thing is, though, I think they all have Facebook. I think they use it like the white pages, though. Yeah. Like, I think they still use it like Facebook Messenger because they want to like contact someone directly.
If Instagram,
without getting their phone number, because who gets people's digits anymore? Like, I'll just DM you on Insta.
Yep. So, well, that's the thing is I would tell you if Instagram ever goes to the Instagram groups format, which is kind of a rumor out there, I believe, if they do Instagram groups, I could see us doing a group for the student ministry. Yeah, I could see us doing something like that.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like it could be to a hashtag thing. If you follow hashtags or whatever, it could be like that.
Yeah. So. Okay. Honestly, I'm disappointed in that feeture. Because here's the deal. Because like if it's a hashtag that's somewhat popular, like it's usually it surprised me how often it's hijacked.
Yeah.
Like I ride a Peloton bike. Okay. Right. So I was like following hashtag ride Peloton.
That marketing got to you, huh?
It totally did. This guy right here. And so I have a bike, and so I was like, oh, I'll follow it, and I could see other riders. And that's not what it was. It was like other stuff that was somewhat related, but I could tell they were trying to game the system. So I don't know. They got to clean that up. Anyway, that's a different note. So Katie, what we're saying is that we're going to focus, think of it like our internal messaging and building community inside of Facebook groups, taking our pages and making our pages much like the front door of your website, and it really being about, hey, this is more of a brochure about who we are as a church and less about the ask to come to this event, do this thing.
Yeah. And I wouldn't even say it like this is like a taste of what our community looks like. Okay. I really want it to just be pictures of people. Like, I just want it to be people, like, and stories of people. I don't want it to really even be anything about us almost, because we are our people. Like, that is who our church is. And so I'm wondering and struggling and trying to figure through, like, how do we do that? Like, how do I do this well? And how do I do it without burning out? And that's a great question that I don't have an answer to quite yet. But, this past year, we already changed up our social media quite a bit, with we post several clips from our preaching, and then we do a lot of music stuff. And I'm hoping to do more music stuff too, like more just authentic, off the wall, not so produced. Like we did a couple of those earlier this past year, and I think they played really well for people.
They did. Yeah, they played really well.
People just love just seeing us come together and worship and do that kind of stuff just off the wall and not so produced. And so I think we're going to be doing more of that too. But the photography is definitely where it's at. We just have to figure it out because, we have some volunteers, but the majority of them actually aren't at our campus. So finding someone at our main campus to be our photographer will, be my goal this year, I think.
That's a big goal for us. Yeah. Well, folks, I think that wraps up what we're talking about in 2018. So we're focusing on photography, better photography for that matter, Instagram stories, Facebook groups, and really kind of shifting the way how we do our Facebook pages. So that's what we're focusing on. We'd love to hear what you're focusing on. Comment in the comment section below so we can find out what you're focusing on in 2018. We'd love to hear that. And of course, we want you to have a wonderful New Year's Eve and hopefully a great New Year.
Be careful if you go out tonight. It's also freezing cold here in Tennessee. So.
Oh my gosh, it's unbelievably cold here. So anyway, it's unbelievably cold. So we want to thank you for watching. If you're listening to the audio version, hit subscribe on iTunes. We'd love to do that. Or you can hit the like or share button if you're watching this on Facebook. We'd love that as well. And so we will see you all next week. We'll be back maybe at a new time on Wednesday. Katie and I got to work that out, but we'll be back to normal schedule on Wednesday, and we will see you in the new year. Until then, take care, and we'll talk to you soon. All right,
see ya.
Bye.